Welcome back to Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is a very special interview. We have with us here not only the technician Chris Aceto, but our new Mr. Olympia, Shawn Rhoden. Welcome.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to ask you, Shawn. Well, first of all, Chris, how's it going over there in Maine? Any snow yet?
No, it's warm out and global warming, dude. It's nice.
Now, Shawn, I'm not going to ask you how it feels to be Mr. Olympia because I kind of have a good idea how it feels. But has anything changed since you won the Mr. Olympia? Any opportunities knock on your door? Anything in your life different?
Let's see. I came home, took the trash out.
No, you don't have someone doing that for you anymore? Come on, man.
Changed my daughter's diaper. Next morning, made her breakfast, took her to school. I think that was like the biggest change from getting 3 weeks just to focus on training,
right,
to being back home to life.
Right, right. Yeah, well, that's what happens. The Mr. Olympia is just super high. It's the pinnacle of pinnacles, of what you wanted to accomplish, I'm sure, your entire life. And once you do it, now what do you do? I mean, how do you come back to normalcy? Is it difficult for you, or are you kind of a pretty down-to-earth guy that it doesn't really matter to you?
It's a great accomplishment to be the 14th man to hold the title. And, I mean, it's an honor, to be among that group. But I'm still waiting for that big kick. I think a couple weeks in, I text Chris, and I was like, I'm ready to go. Back to work, because for me, it's work. It's something that I love to do.
Yeah. I
did get one message though. DM says, now that I'm Mr. Olympia, I'm set for life. That each Mr. Olympia get a check every month for $40,000. So
you must have missed that one, huh?
I was like, I did not see that fine print. I need to read that contract again.
Yeah.
So
it would be cool. It would have been cool, Chris, right? If like Ben and Joe Weider would have set up like a pension fund just for Mr. Olympia. You can't do it for everyone. I understand there's not enough money, but maybe Mr. Olympia for life, like Shawn said, maybe once a month you get $5,000 for life or something like that.
Yeah, I used to kid when people would say, like, what do you get for winning like the USA or the Nationals? Like when people have nothing to do with bodybuilding, I said, well, they send you a check for like $10,000 a year for the rest of your life. People are like, wow, that's pretty good. You got to make your own way. You know how it is, Dave.
O.J. Simpson's still making money. He's been in jail, arrested, and he's got a pension. Why can't Shawn Rhoden get a pension now, right?
Yeah.
I'm not old enough.
Yeah, that's true. Now, you won $400,000, Shawn. That's probably the most money you've ever won doing anything. What do you do with $400,000? That's what a lot of people have asked me. I'm like, how's that going to change Shawn's life? I said, Shawn will probably buy a better grade of white rice. But seriously, what do you do with $400,000? Anything specific?
Taxes.
Yeah, there's a lot of taxes on that. Yeah. Well, what's left with the taxes afterwards? What do you do with that money?
I have a 3-year-old. I have a family, so a lot of people don't realize that the entire 2018, I had no sponsor. So, everything that prep and everything was basically from savings and, not being that guy that goes out and, buy the Ferrari and
right.
the new Mercedes and, stuff like that. So I drive a Jetta to the gym every morning. So at the end of the day, nothing changes. It's, putting my family in a better position for after bodybuilding and, call it a day. I mean, I needed a new phone. Yeah. So I went and I cracked my phone case and I upgraded by replacing the cover.
Yeah, but you know how it is. You make a nice paycheck for yourself and you see that money sitting in the bank and you start saying to yourself, well, I deserve this, I deserve that. Is it hard temptation to like not waste your money on stupid things, when you have a lot coming in one big check like that?
Well, Dave, I grew up in Jamaica in a small little town where, my parents always says they give us what we need, not what we wanted. So to me, it's like money that I never had to count on before.
Right.
So I don't even think about it. I know it's there in case of emergency.
Right.
But again, I'm not one of these guys that feel as if I need to be flashy.
Right.
Or the status means something where, hey, you know what? I'm Mr. Olympia. I need to change who I am. I can never stop being who I am. So
you're not buying a Bentley.
It's going to be me. In case of emergency, it's there. But I don't see me going out and trying to be somebody that I'm not.
You're not going to be buying any Bentleys anytime soon, huh?
Well, I did look at the Prius, but
Prius. No, you buy. People don't realize when you have kids, you got to get minivans. That's what I had to get. I had to drop down to the Honda minivan.
I'm upgrading to a Prius.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, you're the financial whiz. What should he invest his money in?
Right now,
Big points.
wait for something to wait to the shit to hit the fan. Something's going to drop.
You think so?
It's not a good time, I don't think, to be
buying,
risking money in anything. Right? Everything's high. Housing is high. Commercial property's high. Stock market's high. That's when everyone likes to get in, and then a shoe drops.
Shawn, let me ask you this question. Over the last 2 years, you've had a lot of hardships, going on in your life. You had the bleeding ulcer where made you miss the Arnold this year. Obviously, it was affecting you, before that as well. You had your jaw wired shut. You broke your jaw. You were sipping through a straw. How do you get, and it didn't happen early in your life. You were in your 40s already. How do you deal with something like that and get through it and still in your mind say, you know what, I'm going to still get back to being the best bodybuilder in the world at some point? Because at some point you have to start having doubts, I would think.
Doubts? I've never had doubts. Doubts is something that has never crept in my mind. When you have a great support system, you have a great family, support, it's a lot easier. And being the person I am and where I came from, I feel as if we're always, in Jamaica, we're always striving to be one step above where we at. And, that's something that's installed in us, as a kid that, never settle, So for me, I felt as if those stuff was just stuff that needed to happen to make me stronger, to see how am I able to burden, a certain load when it does come. And I feel as if that prepared me for the Olympia. And then when you have someone like Chris Aceto in your corner, that just send me pictures, Shawn.
Sure, yeah, Chris, what do you tell a guy like Shawn Rhoden when he calls you up, he says that my jaw's wired shut, I can't eat any food? How do you inspire someone like that at that point?
Well, I asked him when I told him he was going to win the Mr. Olympia, and I said, enough is enough. I've had enough, Shawn.
I'll tell you.
Ask him.
When I broke my jaw, and I called Chris. He says, "So you could blend some fish, right? You could blend some steak." And I was like,
good.
I've never tried it. I was like, yeah. He sent me a diet. There was no well, we're gonna take the year off and recoup. He was like, you could blend some fish, some steak. You could still. And I was like, okay. And lucky I was living in the building with Psycho Fitness, and I called Chris up, and he brought me this heavy-duty blender, and I was just like,
there you go.
You know what? I'm gonna blend some salmon.
Dave, Shawn has a saying that it's I'm going to keep going till the wheels come off. Till the wheels come off.
There you go.
So no matter how hard he's being pushed, the response is usually okay or confirm or no problem. If I send him an email, do X, Y, Z, and it's confirmed, or it's confirmed till the wheels come off. And when Shawn had to pull out of the Arnold, he was hospitalized, and I called him up and I said, Shawn, the good news is the wheels are still on. We just have 4 flat tires. and the way Shawn was looking running into that Arnold is one of these. It reminded me of this, Dave, and I'm just thinking of this for the first time. When Mike Francois was running into the Arnold, he was at his all-time best. I know where I was standing in Aventura, Florida, when I opened his FedEx pictures, and he looked absolutely unbeatable by anyone with the exception of Dorian Yates. He had already won the Arnold. He'd been third, and he's coming back for another Arnold.
Right.
And maybe 5 days later, his wife called me and said, Mike's in the hospital. So I went out to see Shawn out in L.A., getting ready for the Arnold. And he looked his all-time wackiest in terms of roundness and density. And he ended up going into the hospital. And unlike Mike, Mike's put him down for the count. Mike's problem with colitis. And Shawn sent me a picture, and he looked enormously dehydrated, or incredibly dehydrated. And there was a flicker of a smile behind the pain. And there was a thumbs up. And that was all the indication. I called Shawn on the phone, or I told him, I said, I'm tired. This is it. This is it. You're going to get out of the hospital, and you're going to slam dunk this Olympia. This is the year you are. I've never told him that. This is the year you are absolutely 100%. I've never told anyone they're going to win a show. You're going to win.
Did he say that
and
to you,
that
Shawn?
was just.
Yeah. He says, hey, you know what? Actually, his exact word was, I need to apologize to your family for taking so long, but we're going to win the Olympia this year.
Wow. Do you think the fact that you lost the ability to do the Arnold because of that whole ulcer thing, do you think that fired you up even more? In other words, do you think you would have been trained as hard had you won the Arnold and kind of been, I'm the champ now, coasting into the Olympia?
Oh, I was fired up for the Olympia regardless of whatever was going to happen.
Yeah, but you had to be kind of pissed off that you didn't get to do the Arnold because you did look really good, heading into it.
The funny thing was, I got out of the hospital and I got home and I put my treadmill in the living room, and I'm on the treadmill like, hey, we doing the Arnold. and Michelle walked in and she goes, what are you doing? I was like, well, Chris says we're good to go. Like, so her thing has always been, hey, maybe I need to, text Chris whenever I need for you to do anything.
Yeah, when you're taking the garbage out, yeah.
You gave Chris the thumbs up, and he's like, okay, we're good to go. And right out of the hospital, you're in the treadmill. I'm taking pictures. I'm sending Chris. I still have the little stems on my chest from the hospital. I was ready to go until I spoke to Jim Mannion, and he goes, no. He goes, listen, man, just, take some time off, enjoy your family. You have nothing to prove to anyone. And he's like, just be ready for the Olympia.
Yeah.
And, I told Chris, I'm still going to Ohio. I want to watch the Arnold. I want to see what these guys look like.
Right.
And, after I watched the Arnold, I was even more fired up. I was like, hey, you know what? Actually, I walked out of prejudging because I was so mad, because I knew where I was 6 weeks out.
Sure, you knew you could have won that show.
Yeah. And it killed me. I was like, you know what? I'm going back to the expo. So I left the show.
Yeah.
And cleared my mind. I was like, okay, Shawn, okay. You know where you at 6 weeks out from the Arnold. Chris knew where you at. Just once we get out, just, put my foot in the pedal and got it.
It had to fire you up. It had to. And you know what? I know you're not going to admit this. Because, but I'll admit it for you. The $100,000 or whatever they give away, $120,000, had to be playing in your mind. Man, I could have won $120,000. I mean, right? I mean, it's got to come into your thought process.
It wasn't even about the money. It's just
I know, but it had to come in. It had to play in somewhere.
Not once, James. Not once the money came into play. It's more of knowing that the sacrifice and everything else that you've made for that journey, and watching your body just, turn into something that you've never seen before. Yeah. I remember Chris, he's sitting in the place I was renting in LA, and he goes, you look like a baby elephant.
I wouldn't shut up.
I didn't know how to take it. I was like, does that mean I'm fat? He goes, no, it's just a roundness. And, with all that being said, I was like, you know what, man? I just don't care. I was like, you know what? And I told Chris, I was like, we're all in.
Yeah.
Like, all in for the Olympia. No matter what, we're all in. And I was like, I just don't care. Yeah. My goal is I don't care who shows up. I don't care what they look like. I saw what I looked like 6 weeks before the Arnold. So, let's just gut it. And
Now, Chris, I got to ask Chris something. Chris, you must have had a good feeling about Shawn going into 2018 because you never get on an airplane and go anywhere for no reason. I mean, you literally flew into Venice for the day.
I needed the confirmation, Dave. Dave, the reason I brought up Mike Francois is because it's weird that they both got sick, right?
Yeah.
You know, something bad happened. Getting ready for that Arnold. Anyways, I thought he looked really going into the Arnold unbeatable, more or less, like is the best I'd ever seen him by a lot. And it's hard to get me to go anywhere. And he said, you want to come out and take a look at me? And I said, like, yes, I can, come for one day. And the flight was made like 4
How
days
long
later.
did that trip take, Chris? It was a crazy trip.
I flew out. It took like 9 hours to get out. I stayed there for like 6 hours or 12 hours and got back on the plane. And
it was funny. People were asking me, was Chris here? I'm like, yeah, he's back in May. Like,
Now, let's talk about 2015 for a minute, because I think aside from this year, that was your year to possibly win the Olympia, the closest you came. Chris and I and a lot of other people, experts out there, felt that you won prejudging. Phil came back better at night the next day, obviously. But when you saw the scorecards after that, Shawn, and you saw that the judges had given him prejudging, even though you clearly won that prejudging, was that discouraging for you? Did you think, man, I'm never going to beat this guy now?
I have a saying with Chris: when I walk off stage, I leave it on stage.
Uh-huh.
I've never been one of those guys that dwell on, man, because in the back of my mind, I was like, I already beat Phil.
Right.
I already beat Phil, so I just left everything on stage, and I said to Chris, on to the next show.
Right.
That's the only way I know how to prepare myself for the next competition. If I keep thinking about, man, that was close or this should have happened, I would never make it to the next competition because I'd be so set in what happened before.
Yeah.
You'd be afraid to push forward. So I was just looking at Chris and I said, all right, let's on to the next one.
Yeah. You've gotten a lot of love on the Olympia stage. So you always place pretty well. I mean, I thought the judges usually give you a lot of love on that stage, aside from that night that you probably should have won in 2015. But, you didn't do, after the Olympia this year, after you won it, you didn't go to Prague. And a lot of people were wondering why you didn't go to Prague. Now, you have a history there of getting screwed a couple times, pretty big. Twice I can remember in my head. And I'm sure, Chris, you can confirm that as well. Is that the reason you didn't go to Prague this year? Because you would have easily won the show, obviously.
No, it was just a little bit, this prep with everything else that was going on from the Arnold and everything else. And,
You were there, though. You actually were out there anyway.
Yeah, I was, but not to compete. It was, I wanted to get on stage, I felt as if, I had nothing to prove to anyone after the Olympia.
Right, but were you worried, like, hey, you know what, maybe they'll screw me again. I'm Mr. Olympia. I would be afraid. You got screwed twice before there.
Dave, even when the dice didn't roll in my favor, I still went back and compete.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't worry about stuff like that. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's competition, and I think sometimes, certain guys are afraid of going out and competing in more than one show. I was just done. I was just tired, Dave. This prep just drained me mentally and physically. And, I was up for like 4 days with insomnia. I don't know if that was me just trying to get the Olympia mojo to, sink in. But, I'd send Chris pictures the day after, a couple of days out. And, the truth of it would have been great to go out and compete. But, the next best thing for me was to just go out and, show my face as Mr. Olympia and meet and greet the fans. Instead of, sometimes it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's, just being an ambassador to the sport and try to take it to a completely different level where people who doesn't get a chance to see at the Olympia, you get a chance to go out and meet them. So, I went out and meet the fans and I had a great time. 4 days hanging out with Mr. Ambassador himself, Jake Cutler, and picking his brain, and it was great.
Right. Now, what's interesting is that Phil Heath, I guess his major competition for many years was Kai Green, right? And Phil seems to have pretty much mentally handled Kai very well. He got him to the point where Kai was always like on the edge of insanity. Kai never peaked for the show. It seemed like Phil kind of was like the puppet master over Kai, but he never had that over you. And I think 2015 really rattled him a little bit because he knew you kind of beat him at the prejudging there. What's your take on how Phil and you have been interacting over the last couple of years? It seems like there's a lot of animosity on his part. He's insulted you a lot. He takes what you say seriously, very seriously, at least about his physique. It seems like you kind of got under his skin more so than the other way around.
I just don't care.
I don't believe that.
No, seriously, Dave. I'm like one of these guys, whereas unless you insult my family, messes with my daughter, I don't care what you have to say about me.
Right.
All that is just talk. At the end of the day, I did say, hey, we all got to strip down and get on stage. So, I did make a comment that, hey, in the past, he might have been able to get inside of Kai's head and rattle him a little bit. For me, I just feel as if, I was that piece of corn that got stuck in his back of his tooth that he was never going to get rid of. And it didn't matter what he said. I mean, he trashed me in, Twitter for a while.
Yeah.
And I just look at it as this way. It's like basketball, trash talk. You still got to go out and score, run down the court and shoot that jumper. So at the end of the day, it fired me up. And but I'll never let you know that you rattled me.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep coming. I keep coming.
Were you pissed off were you pissed off at the press conference when he called you? When he said to you, you're gonna be Eeyore sitting on the sideline watching me hold my Olympia trophy?
Nope. I just looked over at him and that smirk in my face, like, okay, because you know what? I knew the shape that I was in. I knew I was at my all-time best. I didn't care what anybody had to say about me. For me, it was just like, okay, we shall see. We're gonna strip down tomorrow night. We're gonna get on stage. You could call me Igor afterward.
At that point, did you know he was vulnerable? Did you kind of sense this guy is almost getting desperate a little bit at this point?
I kind of zoned out for a minute after that. I was just kind of like, you know what? I just want to get back to the room. I want to get back to the game plan. I knew that we had a schedule where it was eat and pose and eat and pose and eat and pose and pose and pose. So in the back of my mind, I'm just, Chris was texting me, what time do you leave the press conference?
Yeah. Chris, what was your take on that whole back and forth between Phil and Shawn at the press conference?
It's a sad repeat of 2015. In 2015, 2014, there's a history there, right? 2012, third, 2014, fourth, could have been higher for Shawn, right? 2015, if you remember, it's the year that Shawn just blows up, gets huge in the off season. So something different is coming in 15 than 14. And at the press conference, Bob Ciccarello had asked Shawn, how's he going to do? He said, I think I'm going to win it, or I'm going to win it. And, God forbid someone show any confidence. I mean, Kai signs a poster, Mr. Olympia. You go to a press conference and, Phil has a meltdown. And then Shawn, who's like any other competitors, worked his ass off all year. And we know what he's going to look like in 15. I mean, it's no secret that he's going to be better than ever.
Right.
Because he's been bigger than ever. And Ciccarello asked him, how are you doing the front double versus Phil? And he says, I got a better front double, front last run. I got a better front last run. And he goes through the poses. And, of course, Phil can't let him finish. He has to have a meltdown mid-sentence and say you're smoking crack or, something like that. It's, it's typical bully Phil. So, Shawn showed him the next day. All you have to do is look at prejudging pictures or prejudging video. It's all out there on Google where Phil's like bewildered because he's knows that it's no slam dunk, and he would never admit it, but he knows that he's in trouble in that prejudging. And so 2 years later, here we are, whatever it is, 15, 16, 17, 3 years later, the same questions are asked, and Phil has to go into, another meltdown. I mean, it's okay to defend yourself, but to cut people off mid-sentence is childish. It's okay to be supremely confident, but to cut off a competitor who's being asked a question midway through and bring it down to the gutter is less than childish. that's Phil. That's not Jay. That's not, it's not Shawn. That's not Dorian. That's not Coleman. It's a unique characteristic of Phil that's, right now, he looks silly, right? Because Shawn's Mr. Olympia and he doesn't, he's holding the Sandow.
Shawn, what do you think about the way Phil seems to be out there, doing a lot of interviews, trying to justify that he should have beat you at the Olympia? I actually asked him about a couple poses. He actually said that, it was actually saying that you don't hit a side tricep properly, and that's why he should beat you in the side tricep pose. What do you think about that justification? He said you hit a front tricep pose, he said.
Well, the Sandow's in my kitchen.
Someone liked the pose, right?
There's many ways to showcase a body part, and you look out throughout the years, the history of bodybuilding. Everybody had to pose a little bit differently. If he thinks it's a front tricep, well, there's 3 heads to the tricep. I was just showing a different angle.
Yeah.
And I practiced my posing over and over from different angles, and at the end of the day, how do you showcase yourself best?
Do you think it's just hard? You think it's hard for Phil? I mean, he won the title 7 times. He hasn't lost many competitions in his career. Do you think that this was just a huge blow to his ego, and it's really hard for him to accept that? That's how I view the whole thing.
And I just think it's one of those things with anything with competition, comes challenge. And, Ronnie lost, Jay lost at some point. And, at some point you just have to pick yourself up and say, hey, you know what? I tell you a funny story. When I was just started bodybuilding, I was winning all the shows I competed in. And I got to Team Universe, my first major show.
Right.
And up until that point, I've never lost a show. And I remember they said, Shawn Rhoden, 3rd place. And I froze.
You didn't have to accept it.
I was like, what? I was like, 3rd. But that moment put a lot of stuff in perspective. I was like, so this is what all those guys, all those years felt like when they didn't win. And I was just like, okay, just take your winning just like you take your loss, and go out there and smile. And, same thing happened when I turned pro. Did the Dallas Europa, just coming off winning the North America overall, and
right.
First call out, second call out, third call out, fourth call out, fifth call out. The rest of you guys step forward. That was my prestige elite group. And, I just took it in stride and used it as a learning experience and said, hey, you know what? Shit happens, and, move on. I can't cry about it. I can't go back to the judges and tell them they made a mistake. It's, what can I do to be better?
Right. What?
And it's just one of those things right now for Phil. It's, yes, he has never, lost to Sandow. It's always been Mr. Olympia. And, I think after a while, he'll pick himself up and brush himself off, and he'll be back at the Olympia.
He claims he's not competing in 2019. Why do you think that is? Do you think he feels he can't beat you, or do you think he feels that he needs to take some time off? Do you think he'll ever compete again?
Yes.
Yes to what? All of it?
I think he'll compete again.
Yeah.
Listen, he's been doing this for a very long time. Every now and then you need to, take a step back, take a break, and refresh your mind and refocus. And, he's a 7-time Mr. Olympia. That says a lot. That speaks volume, for, someone to come year after year, and, that there are people knocking on the door and, trying to challenge him and try to get what is his. And, I think at some point, maybe you just need to take a step back and say, hey, you know what? I need to step away from this sport for a minute. And, it's like me getting ready for the Arnold. Life happened. I had to take a step back and say, hey, you know what? Refocus. And what am I going to do to be better for the Olympia? And I think that is where Phil is at right now, where, taking 2019 off might, do him some good, and, see what the other competitors are bringing to the stage, and just come back being Phil. The Phil of 2011 was great.
Yeah. Chris, do you think that Phil will ever compete again?
No, I don't think so.
Why?
Um, Two reasons. Because I actually predicted that he wouldn't, compete this year, 2019, and I mean that's odd that that prediction came true. So, uh, when you take a year off, Milo, it's okay.
I took a year off from
Mi-
medical school. I never went back.
Milos said, we asked Milos, why did you, he says, I took a year off and I just couldn't get the fire going again. It was weird, as much as he loved it, loved it, he couldn't get it going. And I mean, you know, Jay took a year and a half off, you know what I mean? I mean, he took like a real year off, like no training, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different. You got to be, I think, in the war zone all the time,
Right.
to keep your mind in a state that is necessary to be an Olympian, even when you are already Mr. Olympia. So when you take that break, your mind changes. It does. I mean, literally, your mind changes on, your ability to focus on what you've always been focusing on. And then you get sidetracked with other things where you weren't in that tunnel all the time. I think bodybuilding, you got to be selfish, unfortunately, to a large degree. And you have to have your mind preoccupied, unfortunately, with that damn contest. I mean, Jay will tell you, this is one of the best quotes ever. He said, for years, I just woke up every morning thinking about the Olympia.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even before he won it, every morning.
Yep.
And I think that dates back to 20 years old. You wake up on a Monday, Olympia. Tuesday, Olympia. Wednesday, Olympia. You know what I mean? And if you're not training for that Olympia, then you're not thinking about the Olympia.
Right.
And if you're not thinking about it, you don't become it. It's a very challenging position to take a year off and say, okay, I'm good to go again.
Right. Especially at the elite level. Especially at the elite level. Now, Shawn, I have another question I want to ask you. Obviously, you might have the most blessed structure up there on that Olympia stage. Obviously, you're not the biggest guy. When you see a guy, when you're backstage with a guy like Big Ramy pumping up, and the guy outweighs you by 50 pounds of muscle, how do you deal with something like that? Because when I competed at the amateur level, I was always the biggest guy, so I never had to worry about that. But I imagine backstage it can be intimidating when you see guys that are have oodles of muscle off, hanging off their body, because that's a dangerous guy you have to go up against. How do you mentally, come to grips with that?
I'll tell you this, Dave. When I found out there was a Big Ramy, I'm not gonna lie, it scared the bejeebers out of me, and I wanted to see what Big Ramy really was about, and I flew to the New York Pro the year that he won.
Right.
And I went backstage and introduced myself to Big Ramy, and I remember I was like, "Holy shit! Like, this is a big dude." And I got it out the way.
Yeah.
I literally, because I knew I wasn't competing, I was like, he's a big dude. Like, he's a ginormous dude. So the first year at the Olympia, Chris always say to me, "Shawn, just stay in your own lane. Just stay in your own lane. Don't worry about what the guy on the right is doing. Don't worry about just put your blinders on and stay in your own lane." So I just always go backstage, and I find a little corner, put my headphones on. Chris and I listen to these inspirational quotes from like E.T. and these guys.
Yeah.
And I just put my headphones on, put my foot up, and I take a nap. What I've always done is when it's time for me to pump up, I just pretend I'm the only one backstage. There's nobody else.
Right. You got to do that because it'll drive you crazy otherwise, I imagine.
And not just that, I just tell myself at the end of the day, if you're competing at the Olympia, you're in shape. You're the best of what you do. We all know why we're here. There's no need to look around to see what this guy's doing, what this guy look like. You already see the shows that he's won. He's been in stage at some point with these guys, and I just stay in my own lane and just focus on what do I need to do to get ready to get on stage. And I just focus on that. And, I get in a little zone where sometimes I forget there's even people around me. And my goal is to go out on stage and, showcase the best Shawn Rhoden. I go through these steps in my head, like what I need to do until they call my name to get in line. Like,
right.
When do I put on my fresh pair of posing trunk? When do I do my push-ups and, whatever it is that I'm doing to get on stage, like when do I get oil? There's a step that I go through in my head, right up until the point where they says, call your number. Rhoden, you need to be in line, and I put my number on. Right. So I block out everything else that's going on backstage and just focus on me. I'm the guy backstage that's snoring.
You're probably better off sleep through most of it, right?
Yeah, I told myself when I wake up in the morning, I always look my best. So if I take a nap backstage, it's like getting up first thing in the morning.
It's a whole new day. Well, you know what, Shawn, I want to give big congratulations on the Olympia win. You obviously, your tenacity and your ability to get through hardships and deal with mental issues and all the drama in your life, it shows that you're a true champion, because I always say the true champions are able to get through anything and emerge on the other side as the winner. And you did that tremendously. Let me ask you one more question before I let you go. Next year, do you think Kai Green will come back and try to challenge you for that title?
Repeat that?
Do you think Kai Green will make a comeback and try to challenge you for the title next year? I know.
I mean, in my perfect world, and I'm not being cocky or anything, I would love to, be on stage with Kai, Phil, Dennis Wolf, and maybe even Jay Cutler one more time.
Jay.
And I'm trying to talk Jay to coming back, but Jay said he's enjoying himself, and it's a competition. At the end of the day, I'm going to lose also. I'm either going to lose or retire. And whenever that does happen, whether it's to a Kai or a Phil Heath or a Rolly Winkler or Dexter Jackson, whomever it may be, at one point or another, I beat all those guys. So I'm expecting, to be a target on my back where these guys are gunning for me because they want the stand down. Not the one that's in my kitchen, but 2019, maybe 2022 when I retired. Until then, it's an open competition. I'm the champion for 2018. 2019 is the new year,
right? And
the Sandow is going to be up for grab in 2019. I'm going to go out there and defend it to the best of my ability, because I will be 25% better than I'm this year. And if Kai does come, it'll be the Flexitron versus the Predator versus the Gift versus the Beast versus the Blade. Damn, that sounds like a movie.
There you go. The sequels always make more money. Remember that, Shawn.
Yeah. If I could only get that money, that Mayweather money, I'd be happy.
Chris, have you worked out a profit-sharing deal with Shawn yet, now that he's Mr. Olympia?
Yeah, I said I take 5% after I take half. After you cut it in half, I'll take 5%.
Did you get your percentage after the government takes their percentage?
Yeah.
I gotcha. That's
it's
smart.
about winning, Dave.
Yeah. But one thing I want to say, Dave, is first and foremost, thanks to all the fans that came out to show their support, and thank you guys for giving me that extra push, through these years, even though most people would have walked away after that, getting to that title, all this time. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to our president, Mr. Germanian AMI, Robin Chang. Thank you guys so much for believing in, Shawn Rhoden. To my family, my daughter, my wife, my father-in-law, my brothers, everyone that came out and showed their support. I really do appreciate you guys. And, funny story, I'm going to put this in here.
Sure.
A couple months ago, I reached out to Chris Aceto. I'm always texting Chris with stupid stuff. And, I say to Chris, all these years I've been listening to you and following your lead. And how do you think about starting a supplement company? I would love for you to design a couple of products that works best for me. And
prototype, huh?
So we came up with Otech Labs. which should be launching soon. You know, it's the mind of the mat technician, Mr. Chris Aceto, and his pupil, Mr. Shawn Rhoden. You guys saw what we brought to the Olympia, and both are glad to be coming out soon to you guys. Keep your eyes open. Best is yet to come.
Is the O stand for Olympia?
The O stand for Aceto.
Oh, is that really it?
I say it stands for Olympia. But
Yeah.
I said that, and then AMI said, "Well, Chris, when you take the 400,000, cut it in half, and then take 10% of Sean's half,
Yeah.
and then if the O really stands for Olympia, we got to take 80% of that half, so Sean will be left with nothing."
You know, I was just looking at the OTEC. You know, backwards, aside from the H, it's Aceto. You see that? CETO. Was that purpose?
Yes, sir.
Where's the H come in though? You just need an A there.
Aceto.
It should be Oteca. Then you have the Aceto.
Talk about that, but it'll be more than Hispanic, so we want to keep it universal.
I got you. All right, I buy it. I like it. I'll buy it. Shawn, one final question. I forgot to ask you. You know, a lot of people were saying the last couple of years, not this year, of course, that you seemed like you didn't really want to be on stage. You weren't aggressive enough. You weren't acting like you wanted to be Mr. Olympia. Did that piss you off? Because I know you always did want to be Mr.
That
Olympia.
pisses me off so bad. You guys don't understand how hard I work. How, you know, the posing. Like my mentor, Yanni Schamberg, always told me that the more I practice my posing, the easier it'll be when I get on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've always had that mentality when I go on stage to not look like I'm fighting myself.
Mm-hmm.
But that I'm on stage, basically, I'm posing and I'm into what I'm doing and not worried about anybody else.
Gotcha.
So I guess my demeanor on stage was like, oh, Sean is not hungry enough. He doesn't want it. And, you know, over the years, it just keep getting to me. I'm like, when am I supposed to be out there, like, clenching my fist, looking like I'm getting ready to knock filler or rolly out or big rammy like we're going to battle? And, you know, this year my attitude was a little bit different where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to be polished. You know, I'm not going to go out and fight myself like everybody wanted to see me fight, but I'm going to walk out on stage where, listen, Chris Lewis and Chris Aceto had me posed to the point where I thought I was going to die.
Good. You need that.
But I walk out on stage where I was like, listen, if Steve want to keep us out here for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'm ready. So I just walked out on stage with that kind of attitude, like, I've done everything that I could have possibly done for this weekend. I'm in the best shape of my life. Mm-hmm. I'm at all-time best. I didn't care what anybody else looked like. I was just ready to go out here and battle. And, you know, I'm glad that the dice was rolling in my favor because, woo, I was hungry for that title.
Did you think they were going to call your name when those last two guys left? Were you imagining you heard your name? But what did you think? I mean, you had to have a little bit of doubt, I would think.
You know, Friday night after prejudging, everyone was saying, "Oh man, Shawn, you're going to be Mr. Olympia. We got this. You know, you're leading." And I got back to the room, and you know, again, after all that posing, Chris, they gave me the night off. Room, and it's like posing again, and then you know, a couple of people that was me was like, you know, standing. Everybody else was like, "Man, that was great. You know, you winning." And I just looked at Chris and I said, "It's only Friday night because I know
sure
there is no Mr. Saturday night." And you know, Chris is like, "Hey, we're going to be better tomorrow." Yeah. You know, so on stage, I wasn't even thinking about, man, I won. It was like, man, I did everything that I could have possibly done. Like, right. What else could I have done to be Mr. Olympia?
Good attitude.
So, Bob drawed it out so much that it was like, dude, like, come on, man. Like, I'm tired. Like, you know, but as soon as he says, and new, I was like, okay, whew.
New sponsor of the Mr. Olympia might give you a heart attack.
But the thing was, you know, I just told myself, you know, Phil is 7 times Mr. Olympia, and, you know, you're going up against the champ. You know, at the end of the day, I just knew that I have to be my best, and anything could happen. It's a sport where there's challenge, and they're champions and they're contenders. And I was one of the contenders on stage, so standing there, I was at ease no matter what would have happened. I knew that I did my best, and I would have walked off stage like any other year and said, hey, you know what? All right, Chris, let's get ready for next year.
Right. Well, luckily,
the room and I don't know, flipped out a little bit, but I would have just walked off on stage, shook Phil's hand, and just say congratulations. And I mean, to be honest, I did say to Phil, on stage, and you're telling you guys this. I said, man, you pushed me to the limit. Thank you. That's all I said to him. I said, if you pushed me to the limit, thank you.
What did he say to you?
He just says congratulations. He just said congratulations, enjoy it, congratulations. And but hey, 7 times Mr. Olympia, I only have one. I got 6 more to go. And
yeah, there you go. How much longer do you think you're gonna go? Do you have a number on that?
Year by year. I got a 3-year-old daughter they got to think about, and life happens. You have a family,
Sure.
and at the end of the day, you have to prioritize. Say, I love being a bodybuilder. I love being a dad, and the reality of it is, I am 43 years old.
Yeah.
I am the oldest man to be Mr. Olympia. I am Mr. Olympia.
Wasn't Chris Dickerson older than him, Chris?
Now I found out
so.
somebody
he's
posted I'm
41.
a couple months older.
Oh, really? You're a couple months older? Wow, cool.
I got to put all that into consideration, and I gave myself a time limit that I was going to compete in the sport, and we're going to see what happens when that time does come and take it from there. Until then, I'm going to listen to what Chris says. He's the captain of the ship. And
Well, the captain's got to go get
The captain's got to go pick
up
his
the
kids
trash.
up. Yeah, Chris, go ahead. Guys, thank you so much. Congratulations, Shawn, on the big Olympia win, of course. We'll have you back plenty of times. For now, though, we are out of time. Until next week, I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll catch you on the rise.
thanks, guys.